Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So I've been playing Magic for a very, very, very long time and like to think that I'm pretty in tune with most of the things that go on in Magic or have gone on in Magic, but there are definitely times where I'm surprised as well. I'm like, wait, that happened? And I should have known about that probably, but I did not know about that, and maybe most players don't know about this. Let's jump into it because I was shocked to see that, well, the actual reprint policy might be a bit flimsier than what Wizards says. Let's jump into it. So, their official reprint policy, which was posted in 2016, has adjusted over the years, of course, but really quick, let's just read this little part about reserved cards. Well, actually, you know what? Let's read the why we reprint cards first, just so I can then, use the reserve list to be like, what? All right. Why we reprint cards? The Magic trading card game is a tremendous appeal as both a game and a collectible. For us, however, the Magic game is first and foremost a supreme game of strategy and skill. We choose to reprint cards because we believe A, the cards we reprint make the game more enjoyable play, and B, all Magic players deserve an opportunity to play these cards. Really, Wizards, you believe that? Okay, anyways, any card that isn't on the reserve list may be reprinted. So that is kind of the big crux of the argument. And it's like a bit of back and forth over the years about the reserve list. Now, what exactly is the reserve list? For those of you that don't know, it's a complete list of reserve list cards appears at the end of this document. Cool. Reserve cards will never be printed again in a functionally identical form. That's pretty specific. A card is considered functionally identical to another card if it has the same card type, subtypes, abilities, mana cost, power, and toughness. No cards will be added to reserve lists in the future. No cards from the Mercadia Masks set in later sets will be reserved. In consideration of past commitments, however, no cards will be removed from this list. The exclusion of any particular card from the reserve list doesn't indicate that there are any plans to reprint that card. Okay, so again, the reserve list is kind of like this boogeyman of Magic where it's like, yeah, like these cards that are held to such a high standard from a long, long time ago that people got very upset about that got reprinted, and then Wizards was like, no, we won't reprint it, please, please, please don't leave Magic. That's kind of how it went down, or at least that's kind of, how you hear that it went down, essentially. But here's what kind of happened a little while ago that I did not realize was an actual thing. The reprint list, the reserve list was actually re-examined back in 2002. My goodness. All right. I've been getting a lot of feedback from you readers asking us to reprint your favorite cards and mechanics. Hey, everyone out there, everyone ask Wizards to do that again. That prompted us to take a look at the reprint policy that we announced many years ago, and the weird thing is that the world of Magic has changed so much it's not clear the policy is still doing exactly what it was intended to do. I'd like to talk about this policy and then get more feedback from you guys once I've spelled out some of our thoughts. So yeah, everyone, I guess, if they're just like, hey, things have changed. People are, thinking different. We could get them to reprint all the cards then, I guess, right? The reprint policy was devised and announced in the wake of a fairly big mistake, Chronicles. In Chronicles, in 4th edition, Wizards of the Coast reprinted quite a few cards from the first Magic expansions that had fairly high price in the secondary card market. The original versions of cards like Elder Dragon Legends, Carrion Ants, really? That was expensive. Killer Bees, Mistress Factory, Urn the Djinn, and others plummeted in value when these cards were reprinted. We obviously can't promise that cards you buy from us will go up in value, but we're happy if they do, and we hope your collection will maintain its value in the long term. Wizards learned from this mistake, and the reprint policy was developed and announced so that everyone would know what Wizards' intentions were with respect to reprints. You click here to read the current I'll tell you the gist. Wizards made a list of cards to promise never reprint. The list included all the cards from Alpha that had rotated out of print before 4th edition, along with all the uncommons and rares from Antiquities, Arabian Nights, and Legends. Edition from Ice Age and Urza's Destiny, all rares had only one opportunity to get reprinted in a base set, and after they were added to the reserve list, never to be printed again. The whole policy is basically the assumption that out-of-print cards go up in value over time. This logic works fine for cards like the Moxes. Their prices clearly dropped dramatically if they were suddenly included in, say, 8th edition, and thus the reprint policy makes sense. Not sure if that's the case these days, though, actually, really. However, we saw a really interesting phenomenon recently when we brought back some old iconic cards. When Sarah Angel was reprinted in 7th edition, the price of older versions of Sarah actually went up, not down. If you think about it, that makes sense. Sure, the supply of Sarahs has gone up, but the demand has gone up even more. Suddenly, she's tournament legal again, and even players who don't care about tournaments are getting their hands on her, and then learning that an older version exists with different art. Some people prefer the older art. Some people just think it's cooler to play with older cards, etc. So this is something that was actually, I should have probably started off with this entire thing. This entire thing was kind of started by a Reddit post. Was like, someone else like, I didn't realize that these cards were actually on the reserve list at one point. I was like, wait, those cards are on the reserve list at one point? Because there was a video from Mystic Studies. Make sure you go check it out on, well, not this whole thing, but yeah, mentioning this thing, and it's absolutely crazy. It's like, wait, I love those deep dives that Sam does. It just teaches me new things that, like, I thought I knew about Magic, but again, I'm like, wait, that card was on the reserve list? And that would have changed everything. Okay, we'll get to that here in a second. Basically, the secondary market seems to have changed a bit in the 7 years since Chronicles released. Older version of saying your vampire didn't go down in price when everyone's favorite vampire was included in Torment. It's too early to see what the long-term effect will be, but the price is changing at all. It's going up. In general, there now exists a class of cards whose value might go up if they're reprinted. Yeah, most definitely. And that's kind of the thing with, like, okay, if they reprint the Mox, like, would the Alpha Mox go down in price? No, I don't think so. Well, if any of those cards in that class are covered by the reprint policy, then the policy is going to the exact opposite of what it was designed to do. It was designed to enhance the value of the cards you collect, but instead, it could be suppressing them. So again, kind of like justifying reprinting things that you promised not to reprint, essentially, because it does have the effect where those old cards do still go up in price. I don't think very many of the cards that fall in that category are actually covered by the reprint policy, but I think there's at least a few. I would guess this line of thought applies to all the commons and uncommons from old base sets that are on the list, including these. A complete list is on the right, and we'll actually go through some of those here in a little bit. Now, I'm not saying we should or would reprint all these cards. Soul Ring in particular is absurdly powerful. Yeah, that's right, and that's the main one that caught my eye. Like, Soul Ring. Soul Ring was a card that was on the reserve list. So all of you up there that were like, Soul Ring should never be banned, what if it was $3,000? And yeah, I don't agree with banning cards because of their expensiveness. I don't think that should be a factor at all. I think some players do think that should be a factor, which is fine. But yeah, there are cards that are banned, whereas other ones are not banned because of price. That's just a fact currently right now. Okay, I'm surprised it hasn't rotated out the Moxes and Odysseys. Diabolic Tutor. Yeah, again, another card that literally was on the reserve list at one time. Sonic Blast Single. Okay, anyways, we'll go through these, but basically the reprint policy was a bit more, it fluctuated a bit more than you might think. It wasn't just like in stone, like carved, like this will never change. These cards will never change. In fact, Wizards did change some things back then, and also at one point tried to change some things. The history reserve list is just fantastic. So again, we talked about why I got created. The very first list was those cards from Alpha Beta, but also there were subsequent additions to it as well. And then here's the 2002 revision. There you go. So this is what happened basically, where they decided no cards from the Arcadian Mass set and later sets to be reserved. Commons and uncommons from limited edition were removed from the reserve list due to overwhelming public support for this change. So again, if there is overwhelming public support for this, then they'd be like, oh, okay, well, we're going to change it because, hey, it benefits you anyway, investors. Yay! All right. Consideration for past commitments, though. No other cards will be removed from the list for the time being. The exception was Surprise ban from Homelands, which was reprinted in 5th edition, but mistakenly. Still removed at the same time. It was also removed. That's interesting. That's like, oh, we weren't supposed to do that. Whoops, my bad. Johnson, make sure next time you check that list better. Okay, got it, boss. All right, 2010 revision. The original policy only applied to non-premium cards, which I also did not know, meaning the reserve list cards could be printed as a premium exclusive card. Weird. When this is applied to dual decks Phyrexians versus Coalition and from the Vault relics, the Magic community's reactions were to a large extent negative, and we'll get to those responses here in a little bit. Starting in 2011, no cards on the reserve list to be printed in either premium or non-premium form. Very strange, and we'll get to the exact cards that were actually printed there, but again, like, it applied to non-premium cards, but then they did that, and then people were like, how dare you, my value, no! So basically, if they just, like, foiled a card, they could be like, here's a foil Mox, and people would be like, that's different, that is completely different, and the reserve list does not apply to that, and then people got upset, and they're like, okay, fine, it applies to it. It was a really weird workaround that I did not realize that they had. Again, here's a complete list of reserve cards. You can find that out yourself if you want. There's an entire section on MTG Wiki for it. That being said, again, when it comes to people being negative about those changes, let's see what Morrow had to say about that on Blogatog. Were people really so incensed that Phyrexian Negator, a not very powerful card that doesn't see competitive play, was reprinted? And then Morrow said, more than you know. This was in 2013, so again, 2 years after that reprinting. Yeah, I kind of trust Mark that there was a very negative outcry from certain people out there like, they're trying to destroy the reserve list, no! Yeah, okay, so that apparently happened. But then also another one. Let's just see what that other one was. Why is that popping up? I don't know. All right, on Phyrexian Gator in the reserve list, Chronicles burned me and I quit the game. Today I think it'd be healthy to have some loopholes. I have less respect for WotC sticking to a policy that benefits far fewer players today than it used to. And this is from 2015, so a couple years after that. We've done research on opinions on the reserve list. The pro reserve list crowd stays mostly quiet on social media, but it's a much bigger number than I assume most of you guess it is. Now, this is something, okay, I don't disagree that there's probably, obviously, some people that aren't, or that are more quiet on social media or whatnot, or not as, I feel like there's more people out there that are calling for the reserve list to be abolished, essentially, and that, it just opens everything up. Then I don't see many people online be like, no, it should stay forever. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I kind of don't like when Wizards does this, and they do the exact same thing when they're making a certain decision. They're like, well, actually, the data says that there's more people out there that are playing kitchen table Magic, and you just can't see that data, because, yeah, we're just going to use that miscellaneous opinion that we're not sharing with you, and then we can just justify these other decisions we're making, because, yeah, la, 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 la. Basically, they're just saying that, like, hey, you know what? We've got this information that you don't have, and, yeah, I mean, okay, then if that's the case, then please share your data on all this. Like, just share it and just show people that, like, all right, yeah, there's this many people say that the reserve list should never go away. And I highly doubt, again, if you literally did a poll online, it'd be like 95% to none, or to none, to 5. It'd be a very, maybe not that overwhelming, but it'd be quite overwhelming, I believe, if you ask the vast majority of social media, people out there that are on social media or Reddit or whatnot, what decision they would prefer. More people are non-investors in Magic that are fine with it getting reprinted. And again, they've shown in the past with that 2002 article, literally, they're like, hey, sometimes when we reprint these things, your price goes up. So it's like, I don't know, essentially, that that's the case. We should see. Okay, anyways, next up. Purely hypothetically speaking, there's nothing preventing the reserve list cards appearing on Arena, is there? This is from 2019. Reserve list doesn't cover digital. So again, digital is a way around the reserve list, technically, because it's not reprinting it physically. It is a reprint digitally. It's a different platform, so Wizards can get around that. Now, where that matters, and yeah, it very well might in the near future. Like, I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much on Arena, really, because, like okay, yeah, you're not really playing in Standard with the reserve list cards. That being said, when it comes to the new potential digital Commander client that apparently is in the works, surprisingly. Never knew about that. Make sure you check out my episodes on that. But yeah, if that happens, that opens up the door to, you know what? The reserve list cards, again, are incredibly expensive physically in Commander. But if you play in digital, then they're cheap. Or could be cheap, right? They could reprint them to oblivion. They could do whatever they want with them. Or if they have a different economy, that's different too. Anyways, regardless, digital is an avenue around the reserve list. But when it comes to the actual cards, again, that just shocked me into actually looking further into this, where, again, I kind of assumed that the reserve list was like, all right, they said we won't print these cards. They didn't reprint those cards, except for one thing that we'll talk about here in a little bit that was pretty obvious a little while ago. But let's jump into it. So, cards removed in I keep saying it. Actually, I put on this wrong, too. I put 2022 on my little notes. 2002, if I could say that correctly. Cards removed in 2002. Sol Ring is on there. And again, just think about how much of an impact that has. Commander is an incredibly popular format. I mean, the most popular format out there in Magic. Its most popular card is Sol Ring. It's kind of like the poster child of the format. And this card, again, would not be the poster child of the format if it was $3,000. So, yeah, the fact that it was removed from the reserve list in 2002 was a huge, huge, huge change. And again, there's a couple of other cards that do see play in Commander that were also removed as well. Berserk is one. Can only be cast before the combat damage step. Target you get trample plus X plus 0 to up turn, exits power. Beginning of the end step, destroy it. Basically double up something's power. That can be huge. Regrowth was apparently on the reserve list, which is pretty crazy to think about. I did not know that at all. My goodness. Just like your, I'm going to say your typical regrowth spell, but yeah, it's basically, you know, what the term is named after. Source for 2 mana. Bring a card back from your graveyard to your hand. Also, Basalt Monolith. There you go. For all you who've played against a Basalt Monolith combo, like, oh, I wish that wasn't there. yeah, it's a cool card. I like it a lot for certain decks out there. It's in my original Nezzy deck, Nezahal deck on the channel, the very first Commander deck. Actually, my very first episode of all time on this channel. Anyways, not for a combo, though. Pay 3 to get it out. Doesn't untap during untap step. You can pay 3 to untap it, or you can tap for 3 mana. Cool. Yeah, there's some combos that can go with that. That being said, also on top of that, clone. Very simple, very effective clone. Literally, just clone would not be a card that you could play essentially without forking over a ton of money, whereas it is a 33-cent card right now, apparently, because it is, yeah, again, it got reprinted, it got off the reserve list, but I didn't see anyone crying about that one, apparently. Demonic Tutor, though. Yet another one that was on the reserve list. I did not know that was on the reserve list. Obviously, you can see what the prices of some reserve list tutors are that are on the reserve list that are incredibly expensive. This one is already incredibly expensive still, $33. And again, Soul Ring would be even more than that, obviously, if it was, in Commander play. If it was also on the reserve list at the same time, potentially. But yeah, this is incredibly powerful 2-mana tutor. A power 9 card in Commander. This and Soul Ring both are, in my opinion, when it comes to like the power 9 of Commander, like those are 2 cards that are definitely up there, some of the most powerful cards of the format. Also a card that would not see anywhere near as much play. It's in the top 100 right now, I believe, but it would see nowhere near that much play if it was a couple of $1,000, because again, it was on the reserve list at one point. Also, other cards, really quick, that were also removed, to less fanfare, I guess, these days when it comes to Commander implications. Camouflage, cool. Consecrate Land, cool. Earthbind, False Orders, Guardian Angel, Lance. What? That's kind of, I've never seen that one before. You think that would be an equipment, but no, Lance. I guess they don't go back then. All right, Sacrifice, Copper Tablet, Invisibility, Sinkhole, Mean, Dwarven Evolution Team. I was going to say mean, but it's destroying walls. Still mean, I guess. Ice Storm, Mean, Nettling Imp, and then Psionic Blast, Jade Statue, Juggernaut, Living Wall, Resurrection, and everyone's favorite, Faraz's Band, which again I did mention was accidentally apparently reprinted in 5th edition. And then they were like, oh, whoops, my bad. But yeah, okay. Also, my second category, though, 2010 foil to get around. Again, they tried to kind of get around the reserve list, or actually, it was legal for them to do at the time, or, quote-unquote legal. This is, really, like, the whole debate of, like, them actually getting sued for changing it. Would they actually get sued? I don't know. But basically, again, when they were like, all right, we'll just print foil-y versions of it, because that doesn't apply to premium versions, quote-unquote. In 2010, they tried to get around it with the dual deck, one of the dual decks that had Phyrexian Negator, which, again, is a card that, like, really, it's not like a huge card where everyone's like, oh, I have to have Phyrexian Negator. I really care about sacrificing a bunch of permanents. Like, yeah, I think it's actually, this card, I believe, is on Arena as well. I believe this is on Arena. Let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong on that one. Is this one on Arena? Because, again, you can digitally reprint it. But, yeah, this is one that, like, people got upset about it, apparently. Again, Morrow actually, had some Blogger Talk posts about people getting upset about this getting printed. Also, the From the Vault was the other thing that came out back in 2010. The foil getting around process. Mox Diamond. A Mox was actually reprinted. A Mox was actually reprinted in 2010 in that From the Vault package that they sold, essentially. And yeah, that is a big deal. And again, players apparently, or collectors, I should say, were not happy about that, I guess. Also, Masticore was in there too. Sure, people, I don't know if really cared about that. Karn Silver Golem, as well as Memory Jar. Those were cards that were all printed in that From the Vault, essentially. That again, we're like, okay, it's foil, it's premium or whatever, so it gets around the rule. That got nixed again in 2011. They said, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. That upset people. Now, some things that they still do right now that, actually do, I guess, get around the rule, because it's not like a full actual reprint, but they're still technically kind of doing it, but like no one complains about it because it's never going to affect the price of their cards. Judge gift cards. Judge gift cards are reprinting cards that are actually on the reserve list. I think Thawing Glaciers is one of them. Phyrexian Dreadnought is definitely one of them. Intuition as well. Yawgmoth's Will, Derange Hermit, Morphling. Judge gift cards are cards that were, again, cards that are essentially, on the reserve list that are reprinted, as like a, one-off kind of thing. I don't know if they've actually stopped doing this one or not. I think they actually stopped doing this one too. So they did stop doing the Judge gift cards, I think, because that's like a larger print run than what is next with the championship cards, which are still happening right now. Cards that are on the reserve list, cards that You cannot reprint. The Wizards does not reprint for now, will not reprint, but they are printing, it's a one-off. It is literally just like, hey, you won. Congratulations. There you go. You won the Vintage Championship. You get Bazaar Baghdad, all right? You get City of Traders. Again, I'm just going to show off a couple that have been reprinted that are on the reserve list that should not be reprinted, but when it is a one-off, I don't think anyone really cares at all about that. Gaia's Cradle again, Library of Alexandria, Mishra's Workshop, Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale, the Tolarian Academy, Ancestral Recall. It's kind of funny, there's 3 of them. Time Walk, and Time Walk. Yeah, there's quite a few of those as well. So again, they still are kind of printing them in different ways, but again, they're like a one-off, so it's not something that people are really going to complain about. And like, yeah, it is something that, I mean, yeah, it's a one-off. They're not really, I guess, breaking the reserve list policy or the intent behind it, I guess, because it's not going to be lowering any of those prices. Now, where they kind of did that, but also didn't do that, and it was a debacle. No one liked this product out of anyone. Like, no one liked this product. The 30th edition debacle. Okay, so yeah, this happened in the 30th anniversary of Magic, and they're like, hey, to celebrate our birthday, give us a bunch of money for these fake cards. Basically, that's kind of how they went about it. Yeah, the 30th edition was kind of a disaster in any way that you look at it. Players, just in general, were like, no, why is this happening? And then also the people who are defenders of the reserve list were also like, no. Also, you're reprinting the things too. So like, no one was happy about this at all. Wizards is like, technically the back is different, therefore they're not legal cards. But again, like if you're playing Commander, no one cares that the back is different really at all. Like I've never had anyone care about the back being different on any gold bordered cards I've ever played. Or again, these kind of cards, like if you have them in a sleeve, who cares? You can't see the back anyway. It's like, well, you're supposed to know that that's not legal to play with. Okay, Wizards. Anyway, so yeah, they reprinted 30th edition, a lot of cards on a reserve list. I mean, all of the alpha duels, all of the mocks. Was all the mocks or just mocks? I can't remember. Time Twister as well, Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, like lots of cards that, again, they like shouldn't have reprinted, I guess, in a way. They're like, well, this is a way for us to do it still. We're not breaking the reserve list at all. What do you mean? They're just collector pieces. They're not for the gameplay. So yeah, they have ways that they are getting around things, but again, like, it's interesting that they still find the need to do that because, again, like they kind of just had their entire article where they're like, hey, we re-examined it, and people were like, you know what? Reprinting them is fine. It's actually getting my prices to my cards even, higher because players can play with them, and it makes them more aware of the cards. And also now my alpha duel or whatever, my alpha this, my alpha that is more expensive these days because you reprinted the cards. So it is interesting to see, again, just like the history of the reserve list that I didn't know. Probably should have known that Sol Ring and Demonic Tutor were on the reserve list at one point. And again, think about how that changes the dynamics of Commander if these cards were on the reserve list. I mean, again, I'm not one who wants to say, like, I don't think that cards should be banned because they're expensive. I don't think that should be a reason to ban something. It should be based on the gameplay, in my opinion. But would that have changed? I mean, it would certainly change how many Sol Rings are played in Commander. You would, like, never see them played ever when you're like, my gosh, how much did you spend on that? You took out a second mortgage on your house for that. Wow. Yeah, Sol Ring, Demonic Tutor, be on the reserve list. That was surprising to me. That was shocking. But again, the fact that things have changed in the past, again, 20 or so years ago, have changed with that. Them still playing around with the reserve list issue the 30th anniversary, but also like the digital component of it not applying to. It is interesting to see kind of where things go with the reserve list. If at some point in the future it could break, it could be opened up. And again, like I kind of just thought like, okay, that's probably not going to happen at any point. But again, with there being like the precedent that they kind of set where like they did change things in 2002 and then they were willing to play around with it in 2010 and then apparently got some, hate mail or whatnot about it. But it's interesting. Let me know in the comments below if you actually knew about this ahead of time. Did you know about the, if I could say it right again, I keep saying 20, like I start with 2002. Don't know why that's so hard for me to say right now today, but did you know about the 2002 changes? Did you know about Demonic Tutor and Sol Ring and all those coming off of it? And Camouflage, wow. All those cards coming off of it. Did you know about all those, or was it more of a surprise to you as well? Did you know about the 2010 cards that they tried to go about with Phyrexian Negator in those as well, and the reaction to that? And do you think that there's any potential of the reserve list changing in the future? Do you think there's any potential of it changing at all? Or is it just like, okay, Wizards has their digital clients now, and they're going to be like, okay, like if we can have a Commander Digital client, like, we'll break the reserve list in there because there's no reserve list essentially with that. So like, that's where we'll break things. That's where players who want to play with those reserve list cards can play with them. Is that the solution Wizards would go for instead of maybe upsetting certain people out there that, again, are collectors of the game? Let me know in the comments below on all that. But yeah, all this surprised me. I had no idea. And again, could never played with Clone, could never played with Basalt Monolith or Regrowth, or I don't play with Demonic Tutor because it's too expensive, or Soul Ring. But yeah. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. As always, comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.